Can masturbation really help overcome erectile dysfunction? At first it might sound like a contradiction. But the truth is it can, if you do it the right way. When ED isn't caused by illness but by stress, anxiety, or the relentless pressure to perform, your body and mind fall into a vicious cycle. The more you worry, the more your nervous system treats arousal as a threat, and your erection disappears. In this case, masturbation isn't just a release, it can be therapy. By changing how you approach self-pleasure, you can retrain your body, calm your mind, and slowly rebuild confidence in the bedroom and beyond. Done right, it becomes a tool for healing. When to seek medical advice. Erectile dysfunction can sometimes feel like an embarrassing, isolated problem, but it's important to remember that it may also serve as an early warning sign for deeper health concerns. If difficulties with erections occur often, last for weeks or months, or even appear when you are alone, such as in the morning when spontaneous erections are expected, it's time to consider a medical checkup. Chronic ED can sometimes be linked to conditions like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or imbalances in hormones such as low testosterone. These are not just issues of sexuality. They are conditions that affect your overall health and long-term well-being. Think of ED as a signal, a message your body is sending you. Just as chest pain might urge you to look closer at your heart, persistent erection problems can reveal what's happening beneath the surface of your health. Ignoring it or assuming it is only about stress may cause you to miss an opportunity to treat a serious condition at its earliest stage. This does not mean that every case of ED comes from disease. Many men experience temporary dysfunction related to fatigue, alcohol, or nervousness. But if the problem continues and seems unrelated to situational causes, seeking professional help is not weakness, it is wisdom. A doctor can perform simple tests, evaluate hormone levels, and recommend treatment or lifestyle changes that improve both health and confidence. In other words, don't look at ED only as a sexual issue. Look at it as a doorway into understanding your body more deeply. Taking this step can not only improve intimacy, but may also protect your heart, balance your metabolism, and safeguard your long-term vitality. The role of stress and the power of mindful masturbation. While physical health is one side of the story, many cases of erectile dysfunction are rooted not in disease, but in the mind. Stress, anxiety, performance pressure, and shame can all quietly sabotage the body's natural ability to respond. Imagine the nervous system like a security alarm. When it perceives threat, it shuts down functions that are not essential for survival. Unfortunately, sexual arousal often becomes one of the casualties of this hyper-alert state. The result is a cycle. The more you fear failing, the more likely failure becomes. This is where the practice of mindful masturbation enters as a surprising yet effective tool. Instead of treating self-pleasure as a quick escape, it can be transformed into a method of retraining the nervous system. By slowing down, breathing deeply, and paying attention to sensations without judgment, you create an environment of safety within your body. In this calm state, arousal is no longer paired with panic. Pleasure is no longer tangled with guilt. Mindful masturbation is not about how fast you finish or whether you reach climax at all. It is about reconnecting with your body, feeling the subtleties of touch, and allowing arousal to build gradually without pressure. Over time, this shifts the association your mind has with sexuality from stress and fear to calmness and presence. For men dealing with stress-induced ED, this practice can be a bridge back to confidence. It reduces the weight of performance anxiety and allows intimacy to feel natural again. More than that, it teaches you to experience your sexuality as part of your overall well-being, not as a constant test you have to pass. Through this lens, masturbation becomes more than a habit. It becomes a practice of healing, self-awareness, and emotional freedom. Here are some healthy masturbation tips for gentlemen. Tip #1. Break free from porn, rediscover natural arousal. Pornography has become a default source of arousal for many men, but like a fast food diet, it can leave the body overstimulated and undernourished. Porn delivers constant novelty and exaggerated visuals, which rewire the brain's reward system to expect more intensity than reality can provide. This creates a gap between fantasy and real-life intimacy, often leading to performance anxiety and difficulties with natural arousal. The science is simple. Repeated exposure to highly stimulating content floods the brain with dopamine. Over time, this can dull your sensitivity to real touch, emotional intimacy, and the subtleties of connection. What feels thrilling on the screen can make genuine sexual experiences feel flat or insufficient. To retrain your system, take a break from porn. Imagine it as giving your taste buds a rest from artificial sweetness so that you can once again appreciate the richness of real fruit. At first, you may find it difficult to feel aroused without visual triggers. You may even feel frustrated or bored. This is normal. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Instead of relying on images, redirect your attention inward. Focus on sensation, breath, fantasy born from your own imagination, or even the simple awareness of touch. This practice strengthens the connection between mind and body and reminds you that arousal comes from within, not just from external stimulation. It's not about denying pleasure, it's about reclaiming it. When you give up the constant noise of porn, you create space for your natural rhythms of desire to re-emerge. With time, you may notice that your body responds more readily, that intimacy feels more alive, and that confidence begins to grow. Breaking free from porn is not deprivation, it's rediscovery. Tip #2. Slow down and breathe. Teach your body safety. Most men approach masturbation like a sprint, quick, focused, and goal-driven. But the body is not a machine to be pushed to the finish line. Instead, it is more like an instrument that resonates best when played gently and attentively. By slowing down and pairing touch with deep breathing, you send a profound message to your nervous system. This is safe. I can relax. From a scientific perspective, arousal and anxiety are processed by overlapping pathways. The sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight responses, often gets activated during sexual pressure. When this happens, blood flow shifts away from the genitals toward large muscle groups, preparing you to run or fight rather than to connect. By consciously slowing your pace and deepening your breath, you activate the parasympathetic system, which promotes relaxation, arousal, and better erectile response. Think of each breath as a grounding anchor. As you inhale slowly, feel energy building in your body. As you exhale, imagine tension draining away. Instead of racing to climax, allow yourself to notice subtle changes, warmth spreading, muscles softening, pleasure expanding. At first, this may feel counterintuitive. You may be used to urgency, to finishing quickly. But by resisting that impulse, you open the door to a deeper kind of experience. Like savoring a fine wine instead of gulping it down, slowing your touch and syncing with your breath transforms masturbation into a practice of mindfulness. Over time, this practice trains your body to associate arousal with calmness rather than panic. It rewires your nervous system so that erections are no longer linked to stress, but to safety and presence. You become not just a participant in pleasure, but an active conductor of your own sexual rhythm. Tip #3. Focus on pleasure, not performance. Performance anxiety is one of the most common killers of confidence in the bedroom. Ironically, many men carry that same mindset into their private moments. They worry about how hard they are, how long they last, or whether they can reach climax. Even in solitude, they turn self-pleasure into a competition with themselves. But sexuality was never meant to be a test. The body thrives when freed from judgment. Shifting the focus from performance to pleasure transforms the entire experience. Instead of asking, "Am I doing this right?" ask, "What actually feels good right now?" Science shows that anxiety activates cortisol, the stress hormone, which interferes with testosterone and nitric oxide, both essential for healthy erections. By focusing on pleasure, you reduce cortisol and allow your body to enter a state where arousal flows naturally. Think of this as play, not performance. Just as a child doesn't measure the success of playtime, you don't need to measure self-pleasure by results. Explore without expectation. Try new rhythms, new touches, new fantasies. Let it be messy, creative, or even silly. When you carry this mindset into intimacy with a partner, the results can be profound. You are no longer trapped in the loop of "what if I fail?" but instead centered in "what do I feel?" That shift alone relieves pressure, creates authenticity, and opens space for genuine connection. Masturbation is your private rehearsal space, not for perfecting performance, but for rediscovering joy. When you stop aiming for the finish line and simply inhabit the journey, you begin to retrain your body and mind to respond with confidence and freedom. In the end, pleasure, not performance, is the real measure of intimacy. Tip #4. Explore beyond your genitals, awaken the whole body. Most men approach masturbation with a single focus, stimulation of the penis. While effective in reaching climax, this narrow approach overlooks the body's vast landscape of pleasure. The truth is, the human body is full of erogenous zones, regions where nerves and skin respond richly to touch. Learning to explore these areas can transform self-pleasure into a full-body experience. Scientifically, the skin is the body's largest sensory organ, with millions of receptors for pressure, temperature, and vibration. By stimulating different areas, you activate diverse neural pathways, which expand the brain's map of pleasure. This means that the more parts of your body you engage, the richer and more integrated your arousal becomes. Try starting with your chest, running your hands across the skin, or gently stimulating your nipples. Explore your inner thighs, abdomen, or the perineum, the sensitive space between the testicles and anus. Even non-erotic areas, like the arms or back, can add depth when touched with intention. Think of your body like a symphony. If you only play one instrument, the music feels limited. But when you bring in strings, percussion, and wind instruments, the sound becomes full and alive. Similarly, when you expand pleasure beyond one area, arousal becomes less pressured and more sustainable. This practice also reduces the all-or-nothing burden placed on erections. If pleasure comes from many places, you don't rely solely on one organ to deliver satisfaction. This shift eases performance anxiety and enhances sensitivity over time. The result? Stronger erections, longer-lasting arousal, and deeper orgasms. More importantly, a renewed relationship with your body, one where every inch of skin becomes a potential source of connection. Tip #5. Don't rush to orgasm. Treat it as meditation. Modern culture often frames sex and masturbation as races to the finish line. But climax is not the only reward. The journey itself holds immense value. By letting go of urgency and embracing masturbation as a form of meditation, you can transform it into a practice of relaxation, confidence, and self-awareness. From a physiological standpoint, the rush to orgasm keeps your nervous system on high alert. This creates tension and short-circuits the deeper layers of arousal. By contrast, when you slow down and extend the experience, you allow dopamine to rise gradually, oxytocin to build, and your parasympathetic system to dominate, creating stronger, more sustainable erections. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden. If you sprint to the exit, you miss the colors, scents, and textures along the way. But if you pause, notice the details, and breathe them in, the experience becomes unforgettable. Masturbation can be the same. Let yourself wander. Vary your speed, pause to breathe, shift your attention to other areas of the body, or even take breaks. The goal is not to delay climax as a punishment, but to dissolve the fixation on climax altogether. Over time, you may notice that orgasms feel more powerful and satisfying precisely because they arise from a place of relaxation rather than tension. Most importantly, this practice rebuilds confidence. When you no longer fear losing control or not performing, you approach intimacy with calm presence. The bedroom stops being a stage for judgment and becomes a space for connection. By treating masturbation as meditation, you align body, breath, and mind. You stop racing against yourself and begin to listen. In that listening, erections return more naturally, intimacy deepens, and you rediscover sexuality not as pressure but as peace. Story: Daniel's turning point. Daniel was a 38-year-old software engineer from Berlin. On the surface, his life looked fine, stable job, a decent apartment, friends who invited him out for beers on Fridays. But behind closed doors, Daniel carried a secret that made him feel smaller than anyone could imagine. He had been struggling with erectile dysfunction. At first he brushed it off. "It's just stress," he told himself. But the problem persisted not just with partners, but even when he was alone. That's when panic set in. He thought of visiting a doctor but felt too embarrassed. Instead, he turned to what most men turn to: more porn, more masturbation, hoping practice would fix the problem. The opposite happened. The more he relied on porn, the harder it became to respond in real life. It was like trying to appreciate fresh fruit after living on candy bars. Nothing felt exciting enough. One day, after another failed attempt in bed, Daniel sat alone and muttered, "Maybe I'm broken." But Daniel wasn't broken. His body was simply confused. His nervous system had learned to treat arousal like a high-speed race with bright flashing lights. Real intimacy felt too slow, too quiet, almost threatening. It was as if his brain had wired arousal with stress instead of safety. Everything shifted when he stumbled across an article about mindful masturbation. It sounded odd at first. Wasn't masturbation supposed to be quick and private? But the idea stuck. Slow down, breathe, reconnect. He decided to try. The first time without porn was awkward. Nothing happened. He laughed bitterly and thought, "Great, I can't even do this by myself." But instead of giving up, he treated it like training at the gym. Muscles don't grow overnight. Why should arousal? He dimmed the lights, took a shower, and sat with his body. He touched slowly, sometimes not even his genitals, just his chest, thighs, or stomach. He practiced breathing deeply, telling himself, "This is safe." Day by day, something began to shift. His body responded not with fireworks, but with small sparks that grew steadier each time. Daniel also noticed his stress levels dropping. Masturbation was no longer a frantic escape, but a kind of meditation. His erections started returning, first during solo practice, then later with his partner. She noticed not only the change in his performance, but in his presence, calmer, more confident, less obsessed with getting it right. Science explained what was happening. By slowing down, Daniel had activated his parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest and digest mode, which allowed blood flow to return to his genitals. By stepping away from porn, he reduced dopamine overstimulation, letting his brain relearn natural arousal cues. By focusing on pleasure instead of performance, he broke the anxiety loop. Months later, Daniel shared his journey with a close friend over coffee. With a grin, he said, "Turns out I wasn't broken. I just needed to relearn how to listen to my body. Masturbation didn't ruin me, it saved me. But only when I did it right." The friend laughed, raising his cup. "So you turned your sex life into a meditation practice?" Daniel winked. "Exactly. Best training program I've ever signed up for, and it's free." Rebuilding sexual confidence from within. If you want to restore your vitality, it cannot come from quick fixes alone. The foundation is always a strong, healthy body. Regular exercise, a nourishing diet, and proper supplementation create the fertile ground where sexual energy can grow naturally. When your body is fit, your blood circulates freely, and your hormones stay in balance, arousal begins to rise without force. But physical health is only half the story. Many men get trapped in a cycle of anxiety, pressure, and failure, a loop that feeds itself again and again. To break free, you need to go deeper, retrain your arousal. Teach your nervous system that pleasure is safe, not a threat. Learn to breathe, to slow down, to feel sensations without judgment. That's where real confidence is rebuilt. Not the fragile kind that depends on proving something, but the quiet certainty that radiates from within. When health, mind, and pleasure finally align, you don't just recover stronger erections. You rediscover a steadier, freer version of yourself, one that carries into the bedroom and into life. Thank you for listening until the very end. If today's story has gently stirred your heart, whether through an old memory, a present feeling, or something never spoken into words, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Intimate wisdom is where we come together to touch the hidden corners of love, affection, and sexuality, things that may seem private, yet are in fact the very core of happiness. I wish you to always love deeply, live truthfully, and find yourself in every glance, every touch, and every trembling heartbeat. Affectionate greetings.